right? Oh, sorry, got my cord stuck. Okay, so just to begin, you might think that much of what I'm saying has been said already by other social scientists, because actually among people who study public opinion, it's well accepted that voters don't know very much. And so if you go over to most political scientists and ask them how much do voters know about politics, how much do they know about policy, they'll usually say not much. Okay, so what exactly is it that I'm saying that is different from what everyone else already thinks who study the question? Even though it is widely agreed that voters don't know very much about politics or policy, it is also very widely held that it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference at all that the typical voter doesn't know what he's doing. Right? Now, this might seem like a very strange point of view. Imagine that you're about to get some brain surgery and you start asking your doctor some questions about basic anatomy. He says, I don't really know any of that stuff. You might get very nervous at this point. Say, look, how can you expect to perform brain surgery if you don't understand the brain? It would seem to be a very difficult situation to be in. You might look around for somebody who knows better. And yet, what many social scientists will say is that government by the people works fine, even though the people don't know what's going on. Right? That would seem kind of odd. Right, so how is it even possible for it to not matter? How could it possibly not matter what voters know about politics and policy? Well, the answer here is that maybe voters' errors are random. Maybe they're random. Okay, so maybe, for example, when people consider the effects of free trade on the economy, some people overestimate the effects. They think free trade is better than it really is. Some people underestimate the effects. They think that it's worse than it really is. Then when you hold an election with people like this, the people who think the free trade is better than it really is might just cancel out the people who think that it's worse than it really is. Right? And there's actually a principle in statistics known as the law of large numbers that says that in percentage terms, as long as the errors are random, this is precisely what you would expect. Right? This is precisely what you expect. So there's some people who think that free trade is better than it really is. Some people think it's really worse. As long as those groups are equally numerous, they cancel each other out. And who's left in charge? The people who are left in charge are voters who actually understand the reality. Okay. So just for example, suppose that 90% of the public knows absolutely nothing about politics, which even I will say is overly pessimistic. Right, so, but you can just imagine. So 90% of people know nothing. So you're standing around an election, people are lining up to vote. You go and talk to people. 9 out of 10 people don't know what's going on. Right, so 9 out of 10 people don't know what the candidates are. They don't know what they stand for. They might not even know what country they're in. Okay, so talking to these people, 9 out of 10 people know absolutely nothing. Right, so you may be at this point be getting very disturbed and saying, wow, this is a democracy where 90% of the people in charge don't even know what country they're in. Right, and then 1 person out of 10 surprises you. Because 1 person out of 10 knows everything. So 1 person out of 10 is like a walking Wikipedia, like a walking edited Wikipedia. So that, it's all correct. Typographical errors have all been corrected. They know what's going on. Right? So still, at the end of the day, they may say, well, what good is this? Sure, 10% of people know everything there is to know, but 90% of people know nothing, and we got a democracy. So how well is that going to work? Well, the answer is that as long as the people who don't know what they're doing flip a coin, you're in good luck. As long as the people who don't know what they're doing just flip a coin, everything's going to be fine. Right? As long as there's a reasonably large number of voters, then 90% of people who don't basically know nothing are going to tend to cancel each other out. Right? So, in particular, so suppose we've got 90% of people know absolutely nothing. Well, if they flip a coin, then as long as there's a reasonably large number of voters, statistics tells us that we're going to have about 45 percentage points for, 45 percentage points against. Now, what about the other 10%? Well, let's suppose that this is a very stark election. So on the one hand, we have, say, the Unabomber as a candidate. So Unabomber, you can read his manifesto. In it, he says that technology is destroying the human soul and we need to get rid of it. And on the question of won't this lead to mass starvation, he says yes, but at least the remaining people who survive will live a decent human life, hunting and fishing, so on. All right, so that's one candidate. And when you go and talk to the people who don't know what's going on, it turns out that 45 percentage points of people are willing to vote for their own extinction. Okay, so kind of nerve-wracking. Say, look, you say the Unabomber. What do you think about him? Well, I don't know. It seems. Oh, that's not good. Let's see. What if I do that? How's that? Better? Okay. All right. So we got 45 percentage points of people voting for the Unabomber based on a coin flip. They said, why do you support him? Well, I flipped the coin, came out heads, I like the guy. All right, the other 45 other percentage points are going to vote no. All right, so you say, oh, well, right now it is a dead heat between human extinction and not human extinction. Right. Now we go over to the informed voters. go over to the informed voters. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that informed voters don't want their own extinction. All right, so we can argue about that during the question and answer period, but I will just stipulate that the informed voters do not want to be extinguished, and so you're going to get 0 percentage points of the informed voters who are going to support the Unabomber. In contrast, so what are they going to do? Well, they're going to vote for the other guy, the non-human extinction guy. Okay, so what happens? Well, what happens is the Unabomber is going to get a total of 45 percentage points of the vote, and on the other hand, the non-Unabomber will get 55 percentage points of the vote, and you can now breathe a sigh of relief, wipe the sweat from your forehead, say, oh, wow, we survived. But what about next time? What's going to happen next time? Yes, we managed to survive this time, but it seems like this is a very dangerous situation when 90% of people don't know what's going on. Turns out, though, that what I've shown you is not just a really weird example. It illustrates a very general principle, which is that as long as people who don't know what they're doing vote randomly, then the secret to winning is to get the support of a majority of the well-informed. As long as the people who don't know what they're doing just flip a coin, they cancel each other out. Their views don't make the slightest difference because they're voting randomly. So who does decide the outcome of the election? Well, the people who decide the outcome of the election are actually that small minority of people who know what's going on. These are the people who actually respond to differences between the candidates' platforms because they know what those are. And if there happen to be differences where one candidate is clearly better than the other, then that guy will get the support of the majority of the well-informed, and the system will actually work. Right? The system will actually work. Okay? So in other words, in order to win under these assumptions, what you need is a support of a majority of the well-informed, and this result has a name, and that name is the miracle of aggregation. Right? This is a miracle in the sense that it's like lead into gold. Right? So you know medieval alchemy. So someone says, I have a formula for turning lead into gold. We get 90% lead. We add in 10% gold. We stir it around. We say some magic words, hocus pocus, and then bang, we have 24-karat gold. Right? Something that's every bit as good as 24-karat gold. And now, as far as I know, my knowledge of chemistry is a little weak, but as far as I know, this doesn't work. Right? So it does not work for chemistry, and yet it does actually work for democracy. With democracy, you can combine a mixture that is 90% lead, add in 10% gold, and you can get a system that works just as well as if the whole thing were 100% gold. Okay, so nice result. And again, it's called the miracle aggregation because that sounds like a miracle. Right? It is miraculous that you can go and combine or aggregate two very different kinds of voters, some who know what's going on, some who don't, and the mixture will nevertheless perform just as well as if the whole thing if you had nothing but the good ingredients. Okay. All right, now at this point I return to a saying that I like very much, which is if something seems too good to be true, then it probably is. Let's see, anyone here watch late night television and see the commercial about how you too can start your own alpaca farm? Okay. Yeah, so I've seen this commercial. So according to this commercial, alpacas are wonderful, wonderful, lovable creatures. You can raise them anywhere. You just put them in your backyard in Manhattan, or whatever. You put them on your balcony. They don't have any requirements. You just feed them, give them food. They always go up in price. They breed at some fantastic rates. So pretty soon you'll be selling alpacas to other people. Okay? And you don't need any experience. They're such wonderful, manageable animals that anyone could do it. Okay? And just send us $2,000 and we will ship you your first alpaca. All right? And then they have some testimonials saying, I didn't think I could do it, but here I did. And now I'm a millionaire. I'm an alpaca millionaire. Okay? So anyway, when I see this commercial, I have never once been tempted to send them any money. I can't say that I have actually investigated any of their claims. I have no proof that this commercial is false. All I can say is I look at it and say, look, there's just no way. Come on. There's got to be a trick here. There's got to be a catch. Or maybe this is just a giant exaggeration. And they're attempting to part a fool in his money. So I say if something seems too good to be true, then it probably is. Okay? Now, looking at the miracle aggregation, again, there is truth in advertising. They do call it a miracle, so that should prompt your skepticism. Maybe something here is not quite right. Well, it turns out the key assumption of the miracle is that voter errors are random, not systematic. Okay, so voter errors are random rather than systematic. What that means is that it assumes that when people don't know anything, they flip a coin and the coin is fair. The coin is equally likely to come out heads or tails. Maybe that's not how it really works, though. Maybe people who don't know what they're doing always say heads. Or maybe they flip a coin that comes out heads 2/3 of the time. Another possibility. Okay, so at minimum, since it is a miracle and it is a very amazing result, you might want to investigate whether or not it's in fact true that people who don't know what's going on make up their minds randomly. Okay, so what evidence actually is there that this assumption of random error is true? Right, when I first began studying this area, I said, well, there's got to be a lot of evidence here. Maybe there's something wrong with it, but there has to be a lot for people to have built so many papers on the assumption that it's true.